Come on down here.
Hi, I'm here with Lorraine Warren, and we have a few minutes just to talk about, kind of talk about the truth behind what really happened in the Southington haunting on Meriden Road.
Meriden Ave.
Or Meriden Avenue. Now, what, on your perspective, I know the movie was loosely based on it.
Very.
What happened inside of that house that you can recall?
Okay. Let me say this. We entered the home the morning after we were contacted by Carmen Snuckle on the telephone. When we got there, Ed went right downstairs into the basement area. And I talked to her and her niece for a while. I don't think the husband had moved from New York State to Connecticut at that time. He had a transfer with his job. You see, the son was getting chemo at UConn Medical, and they were actually going back and forth, I think, more. When Ed and I got into the house itself, we separated, and Ed went downstairs. After a little while, I went downstairs, and as soon as I walked into the first room, it was just an overwhelming bad feeling. I had a feeling of fear and like that, that I probably was picking up from the boy who had experienced what he had in that room, which was his bedroom. I didn't know that that room was a coffin room, where the coffins were kept, where they were down the hallway. I'm not seeing Ed, and I knew he hadn't passed me, so I couldn't quite understand where he went. Now, as I walked down the hall, there was little anti-rooms, kind of, that went off, where there were things, different things stored. I got down to the end of the hallway, and I looked to my left, and I could see the area where they brought the bodies in, and it was the double doors on that side of the driveway. Then there was two prep rooms, and one of them was a bloodletting area, and the other was where they would bring the bodies up for viewing. And I thought, oh my God, why would these trappings still be here for a family coming here with a young family? And it was kind of uncomfortable, but I thought, well, they're not buying the house, you know, they're just really renting here. And so I didn't say anything about that. I didn't address that part of the issue. But while I was in this area where they prepped the bodies, I had horrible bad feelings. And why should I have such horrible bad feelings when it was people who had passed, and it was people who were being prepared for burial? But a far more had exactly, I believe, had gone on in that area that the family was not aware of. For one thing, Carmen was not aware that she actually rented a funeral home. She was not aware of that when she did that. So then we went upstairs, and she began talking, and the niece began talking about the frightening things that were happening in the home. The one frightening thing that was happening in the home is that where the niece slept, which was on that main floor of the house in a small bedroom, the covers on her bed would levitate off her. They would levitate right off her, and then you would see something under the covers besides her. And that really, you know, that would terrify this niece that was living there with him. So this went on for a period of time. We asked the Catholic priest if he was the parish priest, if he would come and bless the house. And he did. He did come to bless the house, but it needed far more than a blessing of the house, because it just seemed to antagonize what was there. You could stay like the whole night, as we would do, in the home itself. When we were there, we would stay in the master bedroom. Not that we were sleeping, but we were there. And you would hear that chain hoist coming up by itself. So Ed went down there to see if there was anybody doing that. Excuse me, moving that chain hoist like that. There was no one. There was no one down there at all. He could actually see that actually happening at that time. Then there was these two people of science, and they asked Ed if it would be possible for them to go into the house and spend the night with us there in the home and see exactly what they, as people of science, would be able to pick up. They fled in the middle of the night.
Did they ever say what they seen, or?
They never ever contacted us again. They left in the middle of the night. They actually moved from the school that they were teaching in Connecticut. They moved to some place, we were told, in New York State to teach. So they were frightened. They were intimidated by what was there. Then we decided it would be best to talk. The other was a very high-ranking clergyman, Catholic priest. And they both came there and said masses. They both wrote letters to the bishop that the house required an exorcism, but they didn't want to be the priest, to be picked to be the exorcist.
Oh.
And so the bishop assigned another priest as an exorcist, and the house was successfully exorcised. And I want the people who own that home today, which I told them that it was successfully exorcised, I want them to really, truly know that, because they shouldn't be experiencing anything in that house except the intrusion of the public, which I feel very, very bad for them regarding that. I feel horrible for that family. And so it was successfully exorcised. After it was successfully exorcised, there was a big tree out in front of the house. And it was strange. It wasn't a stormy night. It wasn't a rainy night. Electricity in a large area of Southington.
And that was right after the exorcism, like after
Yes,
they
it
exorcised the house?
And there was a town meeting that night, and they weren't able to do anything because of it. They had to. They weren't able to do anything at all because of that. They weren't able to hold a meeting. So yeah.
Like really...
So that basically is kind of, to give you an overview. Otherwise I could be here for 2 hours telling you everything that actually happened and took place in the house. But that's basically what happened. There were masses said, and there was an exorcism said. There was a blessing done. There was everything done in stages where the Catholic Church was concerned for their welfare.
So, thank you very much. What do you think of the new movie that's out? That's supposedly based on, like,
I didn't see the movie, dear, and I feel it's very loosely based on the real truth of what happened there.
Okay.
Because of the fact that, there was, I had nothing to do with that at all.
Okay. And then how about that show, A Haunting? Did you ever see that one, the version, The Haunting in Connecticut? They showed it on, like, the Discovery Channel.
Yes.
How did they depict it?
That wasn't as bad.
Okay.
I understand. I think it dealt with a lot more fact than this.
Oh, okay.
But, unless you're really dealing with the people who spent the time to research and all the weeks that you spent there, it's hard to feel that there was anything really truthfully factual about everything that took place there.
Okay. And what would be your recommendation for if there's anyone that's experiencing any kind of hauntings going on in their house or are very uncomfortable in their house? Do you have any advice to give these people?
I think the best thing to do is usually, if they're people of faith, is to have the church come in and whatever their belief system is to have the home blessed or exorcised, whatever is needed. But don't let things like that just go.
Okay. So
Lorraine?
thank you very much.
I have one question for you.
Okay.
Could you explain why the church would not admit that an exorcism was done at that house?
I didn't know until Channel 30 told me. I didn't know that. That's commonplace, where the Catholic Church is concerned. I can understand why it would happen. They don't want everybody who has a haunting in their house to, to think that they're going to okay an exorcism of the home. They're not going to do that. But it was successfully exorcised, and I do know the priest that exorcised, and I do know the other 3 priests who went into the house.
Thank you very much.
So there were 4 Catholic priests and involved in the case. So, and I know all of them, and so it's, in fact, one of them, who was the exorcist, had contacted me and wanted to know what was going on,
Yeah.
regarding this movie. And I said, nothing I have anything to do with,
Yeah.
you know.
So.
No.
Well, thank you very, very much.
You're welcome.